put the thing to bed so we can go to bed. So, first thing we're going to do is terminate the link between the Sky and Maestro. We still need to leave Maestro active, but we can close down the Sky. So we go up to Telescope, Link, and Terminate. What that does now is disconnects the Sky from Maestro, so it's no longer controlling the telescope. Now we can go ahead and close the Sky. Click on the red X. It may come up with a message asking you want to save anything, just click no. So now we can still move the telescope around, but we need to use the hand controller. So what I'm going to do is move the ladder a little bit, bring the telescope down to where I can remove the eyepiece, put the dust cover in, and then put the dust cover on top of the telescope itself. So let's move the ladder. First I have to raise the ladder onto its wheels. Move the ladder a little bit. I'm going to use the hand controller to lower the telescope to where I can get to things. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the eyepiece out first. So loosen the screws. Put the dust cap back on the eyepiece. Just for a moment, I'm going to set this down here. Put the dust cover back in. Tighten the screws snug, but not overly tight. Move the eyepiece again just for a moment to keep it out of the way of everything. Now I'm going to lower the telescope the rest of the way so I can put its dust cover on. I think that's low enough. Grab the dust cover. All right, so we've got the dust cover. Slide it up, pick up the hand controller, move it around to its location on the pier. Now we can use Maestro to go ahead and park the telescope. Before we do that, I woke up this. I'll unminimize or maximize Maestro, but I want to move the ladder because there's probably a good chance it's going to run into it. So going to position the ladder over by where we'll close the shutter. Now, one of the nice features of this program is if I go look back at the Maestro screen, there's a button that says Go to Park. And I'm going to click on the Go to Park button. The telescope should remember where the park position is and position the telescope in that position. Since we were looking at an object in the Western Hemisphere, it's going to take a pretty good movement to get to the point, but it will position it correctly. Okay, when the telescope is in its final park position, it should be pointing roughly about halfway up through the southern sky, and the arms of the telescope should be parallel with the fork arms. So I verified this, so we know the telescope is in the parked position. You can see the arms of the tube are parallel with the fork. It's in the correct position, so now we can kill Maestro or turn Maestro down. The only thing I have to do over here, now one thing you will notice also in the window, it should say parked, yes. So I can go ahead and close out the program just by clicking X. Maestro is now shut down. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the telescope itself. The switch at the base of the telescope, just turn that off. The light's out, then the telescope is now powered off. Now we can start putting things back up. One thing I need to remember to do is take our nice expensive eyepiece and put it in a safe location. I'm going to cover up everything, so I've got the tarp and the plastic bag for the hand controller. Make sure the hand controller is face down on the power box. Let's go ahead and cover that up. I always make sure I pull the bag down as far down as possible. Okay, as a final check before you go home for the night and before you put the tarp over the base of the telescope, it's very important to make sure that the fork arms are oriented correctly. The way you do this, there's this shiny flexible conduit. This must be on the top side of the fork mount, and you can see it's going all the way up to the left side of the fork, and it must also be hanging loosely down to the side over here. If you cannot see this, if it's on the bottom of the scope, or if this is wrapped tightly around the fork base, it's not parked correctly and you could do damage to the telescope the next time somebody powers it up. So this is a very important step to note. Also, please note the base of the fork arms should be level and basically flush, or I should say parallel, with the base of the scope and the base of the electronics housing. If the scope is in this position, then it's safe to say it's done for the evening, and it'll also be safe for the next people to start it up and operate correctly. Okay, now we need to put the tarp over the base of the telescope. If you unfold it, what I always do is look for the carabiners. There should be one on each side. Okay, so I found the carabiners. I'm going to flip them through the fork. Find this carabiner, kind of put the tarp on the correct way. Connect the carabiner through one of the eyelets on the tarp on this side. Then do the same thing on the opposite side. Then just to make sure, I pull the tarp out. So if any water does fall and hit the tarp, it'll run completely off the base of the telescope. Okay, we're about done. We still have to close up the dome, but we mustn't forget to put the dew light back on the telescope. So we turn that on. There's a little Velcro hook down here. Hang that there. That stays on all the time the telescope is not in use. I'm going to go ahead and move the dome. It's pointed in the wrong direction, so I'm going to rotate the dome back around to the 90-degree position over here, which I can then close the shutter. That's how to use the dome controls. So, okay, I've centered the shutter opening over the 90-degree marker.
Now we'll bring it back down. Pre-action and movement. We'll come down and watch the rod. It's going to hit the limit switch and it stops. Let go of the, unplug it.
Okay, we're almost done. We've got a few more steps to do. First thing we want to do is shut down the computer. So, like Windows, click Start to stop. Start, turn off computer. Again, turn off the computer. It should shut down. While it's doing that, I can go ahead and turn the power off to the dome, which is separate from the computer. It's a toggle switch that I momentarily just pushed down. Let go. The power to the dome is now off. Now I'm going to go ahead and lock up the doors, the exterior doors. There's two locks. There's a doorknob lock and a deadbolt. Test the outside doorknob, make sure it's locked. If not, move the button here. Pull it shut, flip the deadbolt, make sure it's locked. The door is locked. It's always a good idea, make sure you have your keys to the observatory so you don't lock yourself in. So now we're going to go on out. All the electronics have been turned off. Push the drawer back in for the computer. Close the computer door. Make sure all the red lights are off. There's a switch here and there's a switch on the other side. Make sure the lights are off and the rope lights are off. The only light left on should be the dew light for the telescope. So everything here is put to bed. So now we can go into the classroom. One more doorknob lock. Make sure this is locked. Do not lock yourself inside the dome. It's embarrassing. Close the door. Make sure that's out of the way. Close the dome, or close the door. Now you put the Powell-Rusinger telescope to bed.